Okay, good evening. My name is David Cashman from SEB Housing, and this is the lottery for the affordable units at Emblem 120 in Woburn. We're going to do the lottery drawing this evening. The actual drawing itself will not take very much time. It'll probably take about 3 to 5 minutes. There are 11 households who qualified for the lottery. Let me give you a little bit of background information about how many households applied and kind of how this is going to work. And then if there are any questions, I can take those. There's a chat bar to the right of the screen where you see me. So if any households watching have questions, you can type your questions into the chat bar. Let me just type something there right now. So you can type in questions there if you have them. But let me give you a little bit of background statistics, and then we will go ahead and do the actual lottery drawing. So there were a total of 11 households who qualified for the lottery. Obviously, I know it's a pretty lengthy process to get yourself into the lottery. There's a lot of documentation that's required. So good job getting this far. This is a big step in this process. It's not the end of the road. There's still more that needs to be done in terms of applying for a lease with the leasing office, which will happen later. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But I recognize that the lottery application is pretty extensive. And so kudos and good work on getting this far in the process. As I said, that's a major step. And the good news is every household is going to be moving forward through the lottery into the next step of this process, which will be to apply for a lease with the leasing office. So I'm going to do the lottery drawings. I'll pick the numbers out of the box. And ultimately, this is just going to establish an order of priority, but every household is going to get to move forward, is going to have the opportunity to apply for a lease. So that's great news. If you're watching this, you can watch knowing assuredly that you will have a chance to move forward, which I'm sure is a relief. As you know, there are different size units at this development. There are studio units, there are 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, and 3-bedroom units, and therefore there will be different waiting lists that we establish through the lottery. Remember, we do the lottery drawing, we pull the numbers out of the box. We then have to assort those numbers in the drawing according to different priorities, including household size for the larger unit, and local preference. Some of the units are set aside as local preference units where local preference households get priority. So, and for the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, the larger households do get priority for those. So households who mark themselves as type 3 households will get priority for 3-bedroom units. And households who mark themselves as either type 2 or type 3 will get equal priority for 2-bedroom units, followed by type 1 households. So there'll be 4 separate waiting lists that I'm going to create from this lottery drawing. There's going to be a studio waiting list. There are 3 units. There's 1 applicant who applied for that. So that 1 applicant is going to get to choose from any of the 3 studio units. If you're that applicant, you're going to have your choice of the 3 studio units. There are 16 1-bedroom units. There were 16 1-bedroom units. There were 7 households who applied and were eligible for those. So there are more units than households. All of those households will get to move forward. For the 1-bedroom units, your household type doesn't matter. All households are appropriately sized for a 1-bedroom unit. So the order of priority will be on that list, will be established by whether a household qualifies for local preference and where they were drawn in the lottery drawing. There is going to be a 2-bedroom waiting list. There are 7 2-bedroom units. 4 households applied for those. As with the 1-bedroom waiting list, that's a local priority waiting list. There were 2 type 2 households and 1 type 3 household and 1 type 1 household. So the type 2 and the type 3 households will be higher up on that list than the type 1 household, regardless of how that type 1 household is drawn. They're smaller size household. They don't need 2 bedrooms, so they're not going to be as high on the waiting list as the type 2 or type 3 households. But again, there are more units than applicants. There are 7 units, 4 applicants. Everyone's going to get to move forward from that list. And then finally, there's going to be a 3-bedroom list. 3 units, 3 applicants. They're all going to get to move forward. One household is a type 1 household, and 2 households are type 3 households. Those type 3 households will be higher on that waiting list than the type 1 household. One of the households qualified for local preference. So when I do the drawing, I'm going to do 2 separate drawings. I'm going to do a local preference drawing, and then I'm going to do a general drawing. The local preference drawing will consist of the 2 households who qualified for local preference. I'll do that one first. So I'll put the numbers in the box, I'll pull them out, and I'll show them up on the screen as I go. After we do that, I'll add those 2 households to the other 9 households. So then I'll have all 11 households, and I will draw all 11 households out in the general drawing. And again, I'll hold the lottery cards up to the screen as I go so you can see who was drawn where. Remember, as you're watching this, you might be saying, I don't really know what this means. He's just kind of drawing numbers out of a box. I don't really kind of know what the significance of that is. And I understand that. And that's normal because we've got a number of different households applying for different size units. They're different types. Some qualify for local preference, some don't. So in the moment that I'm actually drawing it, while it is better to be drawn earlier than later, you don't know, and frankly, I don't know at the time I'm drawing it exactly where you're going to be on a waiting list. Because if I pull out number A.005, for example, I don't know if that's a household type 1, type 2, type 3. I don't know if they applied for a studio unit, a 1-bedroom unit, a 2-bedroom unit, or a 3-bedroom unit. I don't know any of that. I just see a number, I pull it out, I'll hold it up to the screen. The good news is that by tomorrow morning, I will sort all the results and I will create the waiting list. And I will send those to you. If you have email, you'll get an email from us from the info@SEB Housing account. You'll get that by tomorrow mid-morning at the latest. And those waiting lists will be ordered top to bottom in the order of priority. So you'll just have to find your lottery application number, which is the number that we sent to you when we sent you a letter saying you're eligible for this lottery. And you'll see where you are. Okay, I'm number 4 on the 1-bedroom waiting list, or I'm number 7 on the 2-bedroom waiting list, and so on and so forth. I know some of you applied for multiple size units, so you may be on multiple waiting lists. So again, you'll get the lottery waiting list by tomorrow mid-morning at the latest. You just find your lottery application number, which will be the A dot blank blank blank, and that will show you exactly where you are on each waiting list. Some people may be on only one waiting list. Some people may be on multiple waiting lists. Everyone's going to get to move forward in the next step of this process. So let's talk about what the next step is. When I send you the waiting list, I'll also send you some further details and instructions, including details that I'm going over right now, and including the contact for the leasing office. And we will also share your contacts with the leasing office so that you can get in touch with the leasing office and vice versa. The next step of this process is to apply for a lease with the leasing office. Again, SEB Housing is an offsite affordable housing consulting group. If you're in the lottery, that means we've deemed you eligible for the lottery for the program. Okay. We have not made any determination as to whether you meet the leasing office's lease screening criteria. That's a separate analysis that the leasing office does, that they do for every applicant, whether for an affordable unit or a market rate unit. So getting into the lottery and getting on a waiting list is a terrific first step, a big, important first step in this process. But there is this big next second step that all households will have to undergo. Some households could be eligible for the lottery, but not eligible for a lease, right? So you could meet the program criteria, you make under the certain income limits, but maybe you have a terrible tenant history, or maybe your credit is quite poor. And so it's possible we're not screening for any of that. SEB Housing doesn't do that. We're just screening you for the program. So some households could be eligible for the program, but not eligible for a lease. And that's what the management team will determine in the next step of this process. Soon enough, I would think. I think they may be out for the holidays, but hopefully shortly into 2022, you'll be receiving communications from the Emblem 120 leasing office saying, okay, now you're being invited to come and look at units and apply. Filling out a lease application should be a relatively straightforward and probably pretty quick process compared to filling out the program application that you had to fill out to get into the lottery. They can show you floor plans and units. And recall that when you're getting invited from a waiting list, so if you're on, for example, if you're on the 1-bedroom waiting list, well, there are 16 units. So they're going to show you, here are all the 16 1-bedroom affordable units we have at the property. And they're going to ask you to rank which ones you like the best. If you're number one on that waiting list, you're going to get your, assuming you meet their lease screening criteria, you're going to be able to lease the unit of your top choice. If you're number 2 on that waiting list, well, the person ahead of you is going to get first choice, but you'd be able to choose from any of the 15 units that they don't reserve. So again, I think the leasing office, given the holidays and stuff, it's unlikely that you're going to hear from them tomorrow, and Friday's a federal holiday. But I would expect and hope that in early 2022, you will hear from them, and they'll be inviting households from the waiting list to come in and apply for a lease and look at units and see what the available options are. And that's kind of it. If you're in the lottery, that means you're program eligible. If you get invited to apply for a lease and you are lease eligible, then you've met that next step of the process, and then you can move forward in signing a lease. And then you're kind of done with everything for a while. There's no more sort of applications you need to fill out. You can move into the unit by the date that you determine with the leasing office. Keep in mind that our certification for the lottery is not good forever. If you end up moving into a unit after June 29th, so 6 months from now, you may need to update your file with us because our certifications, as I said, do go stale. I think most people in the lottery will have the opportunity to move in well before that. But there is some possibility, typically in these developments, units don't all come online at exactly the same time. And some of them may not be ready until later. And if you end up saying, hey, I'd like to move into a unit and not till July, that's fine. You would just need to update your certification with us, not do the whole thing over again, just update some of the documents that have become stale. And we would be in contact with you to let you know that that's going to be required. But again, I would assume all households in the lottery will have an opportunity to move into a unit before then, if they so choose. So, okay, that's it. I think I've said enough. I'm going to go ahead and now do the lottery drawing. As I said, this is going to be quick. It's only 11 households in the lottery, so I expect that this will only take a few minutes. And by tomorrow morning, you will get the waiting list from me with your lottery application number on it. And that's going to let you know exactly where you stand on one or several waiting lists if you applied for multiple units, sizes, and were eligible relative to other households. Again, every household is moving forward in the next step of the process, which is to apply for a lease. So without further ado, let's do the local drawing first. There were 2 households, so here we go. A.006, A.006, and then A.011, A.011. All right, that was it. That was the local drawing. And now we will do the general drawing, which is going to be all 11 households, including the 2 that I just drew. And I know that may seem redundant, and it is kind of redundant. And frankly, it's kind of unnecessary, but the program says that's how we have to do it. So that's how we do it. But we'll do all 11 households now. Put my numbers in the box. Okay, there's 11 again. A.011. Next number is A.009. A.009. Oh, there. Okay. Next number is A.007. A.007. Followed by A.006. A.006. A.005. A.005. A.008. A.008. Give it just one sec. Hold on a second. All right, that was A.008. Next number is A.002. A.002. Next number is A.004. A.004. A.010. A.010. A.001. A.001. Last but not least, A.003. All right, that's it. Pretty quick, I know. I know everyone's probably watching saying, well, what exactly did that all mean? My number got drawn. I don't know where I am on a waiting list. And the answer is, I don't know this moment right now either, but we'll know soon. I'll do the sorting tomorrow morning. I'll populate each of the 4 waiting lists. Again, there'll be a waiting list for the studio units, a separate one for the 1 bedrooms, a separate one for the 2 bedrooms, and a separate waiting list for the 3 bedrooms. The lists I send you will have your lottery application number on it. That's the A dot blank blank blank. If you forgot it, you can email us at the info@SEB Housing and we can remind you. Let me just write that. So you can email us if you forgot your lottery application number. We'll remind you, and then you'll know kind of how to find your number on the list I send you. Everyone's number is going to be highlighted in green because everyone's going to be moving forward in the next step, which is to apply for a lease, which as I've said, is a separate and distinct part of this process. But congrats on getting this far, and I will send those waiting lists by mid morning tomorrow. If anyone didn't provide an email, I will send the waiting list by postal mail. And I will hang out for a second. If there are any questions, which please feel free to type them in the chat box to the right of where you see me. If you don't have any questions, that's fine too. I will send you those waiting lists tomorrow, and then you'll be able to say, okay, great, here's where I am on whichever list you're on. And as I said, I think the leasing office should be in touch relatively soon to start inviting households to apply for leases. And at that point, you'll be able to see the units that are available, maybe take a tour, if not in person because of COVID, probably a virtual tour, and see the unit layouts, floor plans, where units are in the building, etc. So I'll hang out for just a second, or if there are not any questions, then Happy New Year to everyone. Congrats on getting this far, and have a great evening. All right. I don't see any questions. So good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.